You want to save money, but you just don't know where to start? What you might need is a list of ideas that really work.
Saving money doesn't have to be a massive undertaking.
Often it's the smallest changes that we make that lead to the largest gains over time. If you feel like your budget is just too tight or you just don't know where to even start trying to save money, then this video is for you. But first, if you don't know us, I'm Hope.
And I'm Larry.
This is Under the Median, where every week we talk about practical frugality. The germ of idea for this video came about because Larry and I are on our quest to save 10% on some really specific areas of our budget. And we thought that if you're like us and you're thinking, just give me a list of ideas already, they're going to work, then we have some specific areas of your budget that we came up with a list of ideas that will save you at least 10%.
Category number one, and probably one of the most important categories, is grocery shopping and meal planning.
Now, we were in a position years ago where I really thought that I had trimmed down that grocery budget as low as I possibly could. And what I'm about to reveal to you right now, these are two things that I did that immediately flipped the switch and allowed me to cut that already lean grocery budget by another 20%. You ready? Idea number one is to make sure that you are planning your meals every week around ingredients that you get on sale or you get on discount. When you do that, automatically the amount overall that you're spending will drop. But what was that other piece of the puzzle? The number two thing that I said that I did. Here's something that I started doing that most people do not think about. Analyze your receipt after you get home from the grocery store. You go to the grocery store, especially if you're hungry, all of a sudden everything on the shop is beckoning to you, it's calling your name, yes. And you go home with a whole lot more than you anticipated that you would. So start with a list, stick with the list, get in, get out of the store. Look at that receipt when you get home, analyze it. Where'd the money go? What did you spend it on? What percentage of that grocery bill that's sitting in your hand was spent on meat? What percentage was dairy? What percentage was from the bakery? What percentage were snacks and sugary drinks? Now, there's no harm, no foul, no shame in looking at that grocery receipt, because what you're doing is you're culling it for information that allows you on your next grocery shopping trip to do it maybe a little bit differently and change up those percentages so you're spending less on the things that you really don't need and more on the things that you do need and those items that will stretch a whole lot farther.
Here's another thing you can do before going out the door, and this is very important. Take an inventory of what you already have so you're not spending on items that you have already stored in your pantry.
Those are all of the ideas we have to get you started in saving money on your grocery bill. The next area we'll cover is probably equally as prominent in our budget as groceries almost, and that is utilities. This is the area of our budget that we are really struggling in right now. Tell me in the comment section, what is the one area of your budget that you're like, oh man, if I could just figure out how to cut this back, I would be doing so much better economically. For us, it's utilities.
The first thing you should do is switch to a programmable thermostat. This is a thermostat that you can set by hourly. Sometimes you can even set it every 15 minutes if you need to, but you can be very specific about what time of the day you want the house to be at a certain temperature. If you're not going to be home, you don't need to keep the home real super warm in the wintertime. You can let it cool down a little bit and bring it back up before you get home. The same is true at night. You don't need a real super warm house to sleep in. Wear some really good thick blankets and on your bed, and just, wear a good set of pajamas.
Flannel jammies.
Oh my gosh. And flannel sheets. Yes. All of that really helps and will contribute to a lesser utility.
Here's another thing that truly has been helpful for us, and that is energy vampires.
Oh, yeah. We
have had so many viewers who have contacted us and said, immediately 35% lower the next bill, 40% the next bill. Look, if you're not using something, unplug it.
Yeah.
Modern technology, it's a blessing, also a curse.
Oh,
because
so much.
Everything that is ready on is using small amounts of energy while it's plugged in, even if it's off. Anything that has an LED light, anything that has a timer, anything that has a remote. Isn't that like half the stuff in our house right now?
Oh, at least.
If you unplug it from the wall, it will no longer be sucking that energy. They're called energy vampires. Truly, that works to help lower your energy bill. Hey, if you're liking these tips, do us a super big favor. Scroll up, give this video a like. That helps us with the YouTube algorithm, and make sure that you are subscribed to Under the Media. And a couple more things about energy usage before we move on to the next big topic that we're going to help you to save some money in. That is that you can track your energy usage online.
Oh, very important.
Our utility company offers us so much information about the way that we are using energy. Sign up to an online account, and then we are able to look at our actual account, our actual energy usage, not only monthly, but also daily, and even down to 15-minute increments throughout the day. We can see exactly. So if we turn on our electric stove, we know that our energy usage is going to spike. Having information like that is super important. What it does is it builds awareness. You figure out, wait a minute, I don't want to use that energy hogging electric oven unless I absolutely have to turn on the energy hogging electric oven. And if I am going to turn on the energy hogging electric oven, I'm going to make sure it's full. That baby is going to have all kinds of stuff shoved into it.
That's right.
And I'm going to be baking or roasting a full oven load of stuff if I'm going to turn it on. Those sorts of changes, it's small changes in your habits that honestly do make a difference in the way that you're using energy. But check with your energy company. The more information that you can get, that's gold as far as you being able to acknowledge how you're using energy and change it. Here is another energy tip that a lot of people have not thought of. We thought of it about, I don't know, maybe up to a year ago. It was all of a sudden, it was a light bulb moment, all right, for me. I was like, wait, I think I know how we can figure out where the energy is going and where we're using it and how we're using it. An energy diary. Okay, it sounds fancy schmancy, but literally it's a piece of paper. We put it next to our microwaves. And when you turn something on, like the energy hogging electric oven, then I'm going to note in that diary, I turned the oven on at this time. I turned it off at this time. I turned the microwave on. I turned the coffee maker on. Now we don't get it down to turning lights on in the room, because that's itty bitty.
Lights don't use that much power.
Right. But if you're going to use something like our toaster oven, or our pressure cooker, or even our crock pot, you would be surprised how much a crock pot over 6 or 8 hours does. It doesn't use that much energy, but you got to remember you're using it over 6 or 8 hours.
So it's using some energy.
Right. Does that mean we never use our slow cooker? Well, of course it doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that we're aware of how much energy that uses as compared to, say, the pressure cooker. And you can make those decisions more clearly when you have kept track of when you have used energy throughout the day, and maybe how you can change those patterns to use it more effectively.
That's correct. This next area we're just going to call financial organization. This is how you organize all your financial data so you can look at it and make sense of it.
Tracking subscriptions. This is... People have so many little small amounts of money going out, like our little Netflix habit. Okay, so that is $6.99 a month for our Netflix. But let's just say that we paid for Netflix yearly. Netflix, hear me clearly. Let those of us who are having ads have a little bit of a price break if we pay once a year, please. And thank you. They don't do that, so we pay once a month. But let's just say it was a yearly subscription, and we weren't paying attention to when that yearly renewal was coming back around. It happens all the time where you're like, oh, well, shoot. I'd forgotten all about that. Are you really using the subscriptions? Are you using everything related to the subscription? If you're not, maybe you really don't need to keep it.
In our case, we're really using Netflix right now. We just got done watching a really good series, and it spawned off another series that I'm watching. There are some good things on Netflix if you're really careful at what you watch. But once again, we try to be very careful at what we pay. And when we're done watching whatever might be offered there, we're going to eliminate that for a while.
Okay, here's another part of organizing your finances and just really tracking what's coming in, what's going out. And people are hesitant to do this but we really suggest stridently that you do this, and that is the math.
Yeah.
We'll go back to a subscription for just a second. Cable TV. About 6-8 months ago, I've watched the sort of trajectory of cable TV bills over the past 2, 3, 4 years, and the average cable bill just stopped. It topped $100 a month. So let's just say you're paying $100 a month for that cable subscription. Do the math. What's that costing you a year? $1,200. Doesn't that all of a sudden resonate completely differently? It changes in your mind.
Yep.
Take those monthly bills, multiply them by 12.
Yep.
Is it worth it to you to pay that every year out of your pocket in order to keep that? Do the math. It really is helpful.
Just as a side note, we have never had cable since we've been married. We've never gotten into it. We've always been able to find enough interesting things to watch on television without having cable. If you don't start it, you don't get used to it.
But yeah, about a year ago, I did slide a little Netflix in there. And then you got interested in it. So
I got very interested.
Still have Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
We will let you all know if we decide to ditch our Netflix habit and do something else. You will be the first to know. All right, here's another idea. Set a weekly spending limit.
Yes.
On Monday morning, we are huge proponents. We do what we call our big three. On Monday morning, we're going to write down what are the top 3 things financially that we are focusing on.
Yep.
These aren't big goals. They're small goals. It might be don't turn on the energy hogging electric oven anytime this week, right? And so we're going to make a plan. How are we not going to do that? What are we going to do instead? What kind of meals are we going to cook that don't involve the energy hogging electric oven?
Yeah.
We set those big 3. But kind of do an overview of your entire week. When and where and how are you going to be spending money this week? Write down that game plan. Are there specific days where you know, on this day I'm going out to lunch with Mary. I know I'm going to spend $20 going out to lunch with Mary. We're not going to tell you not to go out to lunch with Mary. We're going to tell you to make sure it's within your budget.
Yes.
And write it down so that you know on Tuesday or Wednesday when I go out with Mary, I'm going to be spending about $20 on lunch. Maybe you can cut it back. You can look online at the menu before you go out to lunch with Mary.
Yes, that's
the
right.
whole idea of this exercise is to become hyper aware of where the money is going. So
much of it has to do with planning, how well you plan. You're going to set a limit. If you're going to go out to eat with a friend, set a limit on how much you want to pay and stick to that limit. Make sure you go online, look at the menu for that place and see if you can get your meal for under $10, let's say, for your lunch. There's all kinds of ways to do things to save money. Planning is a big element in that.
I love the idea that you came up with of setting a goal. Maybe you usually spend $20, but you're going to spend $10 instead. That is a really fantastic tip. Here's another one. Review bills for errors. Now, we have found this to be particularly true if you are getting any medical bills of any kind in the mail.
Yes.
Good Lord in heaven. We have found several $100 errors, especially when one of us has been hospitalized. They be charging a whole lot of money for stuff that you're like, nope, never happened. And so make sure that you're reviewing, even if you have insurance who is picking up the tab, review bills for errors. But this comes down to even monthly bills that come in. Is there something on that bill that really shouldn't be there and you can reduce or eliminate that charge? Take a look at that.
You might even find let's say you're using your credit card, you might even find something billed to you that you didn't purchase, that somebody got your credit card number and used it and they shouldn't have. So there's lots of good reasons to review those and take a look at those receipts and make sure that they're legitimate.
Speaking of credit cards, it's becoming far more common practice these days for companies to pass along that 2.5% to 3% upcharge for sliding the plastic and putting something on a credit card. Look for that. Talk to the company. See if you can get that charge eliminated. If you're paying monthly, you may also save upwards of about 10% by just asking the company, can I pay yearly instead of monthly? Oftentimes you can save some money by doing that. And finally, this is something that we had to institute this last year, and that is making sure that we are automating savings transfers. We had to open up a separate account to pay for unexpected medical and dental expenses. Instead of just fussing all the time when something came in, we started a separate savings account. $300 at the first of every month goes from our main account to that sub account. You may find this practice to be super helpful just for organizational purposes and knowing how much money you have set aside for a very specific purpose.
Transportation is another big area in your budget that you can look at and start reducing the amount that you pay. This may take time. We took a lot of years before we finally got down to 2 cars that get really good mileage. We had to wait until we didn't need large vehicles for our large family in order to get where we're at today. But we drive a Prius and a Honda Fit. Those are both small cars. They're as big as we need. There's only 4 of us riding in them at the most at any given time. The Honda Fit gets about 42, 43 miles to the gallon, and the Prius can get over 50 miles to the gallon. This gives us a lot more bang for the buck. And the other way you can save on transportation is maybe eliminate the car entirely if you live in town and you can take public transportation. I did that for the first 2 years that we lived in this home. We found a bus route that was within just a couple of blocks walking distance that would take me almost all the way down to where I worked downtown, and it was a very handy thing. It was only $1 per ride. Gas was really expensive at that time, and we drove an 8-cylinder. I drove an 8-cylinder car at that time that didn't get very good mileage. So I saved a substantial amount by going public transportation.
Let's just say you don't have public transportation or you don't want to take it. Check around with coworkers or friends to see if they're going the same direction at the same time of day that you are. Carpooling is a fantastic way to save on transportation costs. He mentioned something just a little bit ago about miles per gallon. Did you know that by keeping your tires inflated to the correct PSI, that you can save up to 3% on your gas mileage?
And that's so much more important in the wintertime when it's colder, because that reduces the amount of air that you have in your tires. My cars both tell me if I need to add air. They're pretty close range about the amount that they need. But I do keep those tires watched very closely and keep them up to specs in order to get the best gas mileage. How you drive has a lot to do with your gas mileage too. Don't go up to the stoplight real fast. Don't start out real fast. Watch ahead. Just drive in such a manner that your car gets better mileage. It will still save you a lot of money in the long run. All these little things add up.
Here's something else to be aware of, and that is be aware of what your insurance covers and doesn't cover. Our son, Daniel, who is 20, just had this happen. A rock hit his windshield. It huge, jagged crack. And we said, dude, you're going to have to get your windshield replaced. And we think we're pretty darn sure that your insurance will cover it because he had comprehensive insurance. What happened was he called our insurance broker, who then made the arrangements with the glass company, made the appointment for Daniel to go in. But because the insurance broker had made the appointment incorrectly, Daniel was charged $50 for the copay to get the new windshield. And he got back home and I said, call the insurance broker, tell them that the appointment was made incorrectly. Could they comp you $50? And they did. They sent him a $50 check in the mail.
There's a case where we mentioned earlier in this video to check your receipts and make sure you're being charged correctly for things.
All right, we would digress if we did not mention Gas Buddy before we move on to the next category that we're going to help you save at least 10% in.
Yes.
Gas Buddy is a fantastic app. It's also online, and you can check it. It will show you the lowest gas prices in any given area. It's incredibly helpful when you are traveling. So you can get on Gas Buddy. You can check, if 30 miles down the road, you're going to be at a certain city. You can tell Gas Buddy, check in a 10-mile radius or 5-mile radius from this city and tell me the cheapest gas prices, and then you can route yourself there with GPS, and you can save money while you're traveling also.
We discovered a gas station in our area that regularly sells their gas for about 40 cents less a gallon than all the rest of them do. So we go there. I make sure that I'm going there when we're in that part of town, so I'm not driving out of my way to get there. But it really helps even in your local area if you can find that real good special gas station to buy your gas at the lowest prices at.
This next area is another one of those overall areas that's going to help you save in several different areas of your budget, and that is your shopping habits.
Yes.
24-hour wait period. Super important when you look at something, when you find something new and you're excited about it, you instantaneously want to hit the big red buy button and go, yeah, I am in. But if you just put it in your cart, walk away, not your physical cart, your online shopping cart. Put it in a physical cart and walk away. It's probably not going to be there when you get back 24 hours later.
No, probably
but
not.
if you put it in your virtual cart, wait 24 hours, or if you just take some time to take a deep breath and begin asking yourself questions. We did a whole video on 20 questions to ask yourself before making a purchase. I'm going to make sure, guys, I'll link it up above. I'll also put that video in the description of this video so you can watch it later. There are questions you need to ask yourself about whether you actually need this. Is it a duplicate of what you already have? Do you have the funds set aside to pay for it? Has this been a goal that you've been saving for? All sorts of questions. Oh, another question that people should ask themselves and forget to ask themselves is, if I make this purchase, how is this purchase going to impact my other savings goals? If it's going to negatively impact those goals, especially if it's going to impact them a lot, you might want to not make the purchase that is sitting right in front of you in the store.
You can also set up alerts for price drops. This is particularly true on online shopping, where you have an item, you can put it in a queue and it will tell you if it drops in price, whether you want to purchase it or not. That helps as well.
There are several of those. Amazon has, I think they have their own internally. Their Camel also is an Amazon price tracker. Honey, which is a cashback app, will also track prices for you and send you an email if the price of something that you're watching drops. But Honey is also very much like Rakuten. Rakuten and Honey are both apps, and we've used them both, which allow you to earn cash back when you're purchasing online. And it also checks for coupons before you finish the checkout process. So I'll make sure, once again, links. I'll make sure that there's a link to Honey and Rakuten in the description of the video too.
Another strategy along these lines is to buy used first. If you can buy an item used, you can usually get it for just a fraction of the cost of what it would be if you bought it brand new. So if you can buy a really good item used in almost perfect condition, why not? What's the advantage of spending all that money on a brand new item that as soon as you get it home in 5 minutes, it's going to be used anyway?
We call that the hierarchy of frugality is the way we usually refer to that. And the hierarchy, the top layer is free, and then you work your way down to used, and then all the way at the bottom of the hierarchy triangle is to buy retail. But even when you're buying retail, you're looking at stacking as many discounts as possible to make sure that you're getting it for the least amount of money you possibly can.
And I know this seems like a lot of work when you think about it, but how important is it for you to have this extra money? That's what you have to think about.
Yeah, think about your why.
Yeah.
We call that your so that statement.
That's right.
Why is it that you're trying to shave 10% off all of these budget categories? What is it that you're trying to gain? Is it so you can pay off a credit card bill? Is it so that you can pay off your house? Is it so you can save toward the next car? What is it that you are trying to gain from this experience? And when you write that down, that's your why. And that will keep you moving forward when you feel like I'm stuck and there's no other way that I can save money.
And that will help you the next time when you have a similar situation coming over the horizon where you need money for something else. You might need money to buy a new roof for your house. Well, now you've gone through all those steps that you use to buy a car. You can use that and apply those principles to buying a roof for your house.
We usually, sometimes we look at each other because I think when you watch the channel, you're like, oh, saving money is easy for them. No, it
is
no
not
easier
easy
for us than it
Oh
is
my
for anybody
gosh,
else.
no way.
We sometimes get
It's work.
stuck and we look at each other and say, we are smart, we are industrious, we are capable, we can do more research, we can think outside the box.
We have this YouTube channel, that we do about talking about this stuff.
We consistently challenge ourselves to
Yeah.
do things differently or do more or change our mindset. And when you do that, when you're feeding yourself that positivity, that information that says, of course, yes, I can do this, then guess what? Down the road, you can do it.
We've been focusing on saving 10%. Well, why is that the magic number? This is where Hope and I started. We started by saving 10% on a very tight budget that we didn't think we could wiggle anything out of. If you'd like more information on how you can set up your budget in order to do 10% savings over different categories, we have a really good video that we made, and we'll have it right over there for you to watch. Hello.